When Christian Horner signed Newey in 2005, he said, "Given the choice of Adrian Newey or Michael Schumacher, I'd go for Adrian every time." But fast forward to today, as reported by German magazine Auto Motorsport, Horner's tone has completely changed. A Red Bull insider informed the magazine, Horner seriously believes that Red Bull will be able to do without Verstappen, Ford, and Newey. For the first time since this saga, Horner is tired of begging his team members. He has gone from defense to full attack mode, daring anyone who wants to leave to do so. His message is simple: if you are not for me, then you are against me. It is claimed that Horner considers himself the architect of the team's success. He is responsible for the success and failures of the team since inception. After all, when Mateschitz bought Red Bull, he was the one whom the keys was handed to. Horner has threatened everyone that they are replaceable. He didn't even bother to mention Helmut. He probably doesn't consider him a threat at all. The people who are easier to replace are Verstappen and Ford. Max, with due respect to his talents, is only as good as the car. Ford is just an engine supplier. There's nothing to panic. The big elephant in the room is Adrian Newey. Since Horner likes to build around the car rather than the driver, Newey would be hardest to replace. But today we will tell you why Horner is willing to push him out. Sometimes loyalty means a lot more than talent. While it is easy to conclude that Horner has completely gone crazy by pushing Newey to another project, we urge you to first hear the full story. Hit the subscribe button to support the channel. Welcome to Front Lockout. For us to understand how Horner signed Newey, we need to go back in time, specifically to 1997. In Chapter 53 of his book, How to Build a Car, Newey, who had won 9 drivers and 9 constructors' championships with Williams, had just made the switch to McLaren in 1997. His boss back then was Ron Dennis. It happened that Ron wanted absolute control of everything in his team, and was particularly obsessed with the color gray. Just 2 weeks into working for McLaren, Newey dared to paint his office from gray to duck egg blue. The gray color, which was the color of the then McLaren, was too dull for him. Newey would later learn from Ron Dennis's wife that her husband had planned to fire him the next day for changing the color of his office. This seemingly innocent event set the tone for a tumultuous relationship between Newey and Dennis. Their last fight in 2005 was due to Dennis refusing to give Adrian a $10 million contract from $6 million. Their relationship got so bad that Newey considered retiring from the sport. And as it happened, at the lowest point in Newey's career, Horner gave him a parachute and a path to join Red Bull. 18 years later, they had produced a 4-time world champion and had built the most dominant machine in F1's history, the RB19. So you can see why Horner would feel betrayed by Newey. He was there for Newey 18 years ago at the lowest point in his career when he considered retiring. The least Horner would expect is at least some support in his most trying times. The risk Horner faces is that if he doesn't survive this, no other team will hire him, and it will be a career suicide. This is the existential threat that Horner faces because of some texts. Horner to push Newey out of F1? German publication Auto Motorsport reported that Verstappen and his father aren't the only figures dissatisfied with the off-track issues. Chief Technical Officer Newey is also unimpressed by the ongoing Horner saga. This has been seen as a form of betrayal by Horner, who, unlike McLaren, had given him freedom, stability, and job security for 18 years. The paper has now reported that Horner plans to shift the 65-year-old away from F1 operations for budgetary reasons. The idea is to push Newey to lead the company's RB17 hypercar project. The $6.2 million project was built in-house by Newey and is expected to come on board by 2025. The implication is that Newey would have no contribution to the F1 project. Adrian is not expected to be relegated and would rather go elsewhere. The Italian Gazzetta has now reported that Ferrari is on high alert and wants the man they had failed to sign on 3 occasions in the past. But before they go for their main man, they are trying to sign 3 important figures at Red Bull, paving the way for Newey. On the list is Red Bull's on-track aerodynamic development manager David Morgan. He is responsible for the configuration of the car, as well as the interpretation of the aerodynamic correlation data between the track and the simulator. Ferrari's next man is Ben Waterhouse, who is the head of performance. He knows the internal configurations of the suspensions, which allows a perfect match between dynamic and aerodynamic balance. Ferrari's last man is fellow Italian Alessandro Germani, who is the team leader of aerodynamic development. We are still waiting to see how this will pan out. When Hamilton was asked if Newey could join Ferrari, he said since he could make the switch, then Newey could. Leave us your thoughts in the comments. This is Front Lockout, signing off.